There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't show up in wounds, doesn't scream like loss, doesn't paralyze like failure. But it lingers longer than most. It's the dull ache of disconnection. Of feeling cut off. Unseen. Not quite part of the world around you. You've felt it before. In the middle of a crowded room. In silence next to someone who used to understand you. In the endless scroll of online connection that somehow leaves you emptier than before. And it's not just you. This fear of separation, this deep-rooted pain of feeling alone, is one of the most universal yet hidden sources of human suffering. It shapes the way you speak, choose, withdraw, perform, cling, or chase approval. It's older than your memories. And unless you understand it, it controls far more of your life than you realize. But there's something more powerful than that fear. Something you've always had access to. Something that can free you. Let's go there now. You didn't start out with a fear of separation. You began as connection itself. A newborn has no concept of me and them. In the earliest weeks of life, your body was simply part of the world. Every warmth, sound, or movement belonged to one seamless whole. You reached, and the world responded. You cried, and someone came. But somewhere along the way, that changed. It starts slowly. Someone important looks away. A moment of need goes unmet. You get scolded for being too loud, too soft, too wild, too slow. You learn, to be loved, you must be different than you are. You shrink parts of yourself, shape your voice to match expectation, adjust to survive. And bit by bit, the connection feels conditional. That's where the fracture begins. And you carry that fracture into adulthood. Now, instead of depending on others with trust, you fear depending at all. You armor up with independence, success, humor, distraction. You chase validation, pretending not to need it. You keep conversations safe, light, efficient, never too vulnerable. You learn to show up polished but distant. And even when you're surrounded by people, something inside still whispers, they don't really see you. If they did, they wouldn't stay. That whisper shapes everything. Philosophers throughout time have wrestled with this quiet ache. Martin Heidegger saw human beings as thrown into the world, each of us dealing with the fact that we are ultimately alone in our awareness. Jean-Paul Sartre described how other people's perception of us can trap us, distort us, objectify us. He famously wrote, "Hell is other people, not because of hatred, but because of the deep existential tension of needing others while fearing what they see." But even earlier, in ancient Eastern philosophy, something else was understood, that the sense of separation is illusion. The Upanishads describe the self and the universe as not two, fundamentally interwoven. The Buddhist concept of inner being, later explored by Thich Nhat Hanh, says nothing exists by itself. You are not separate. Not even for a moment. You only believe you are. So why does it still feel so painful? Because your nervous system was shaped by every moment of disconnection. And it remembers. When someone ignores you, interrupts you, leaves you unread, your brain doesn't interpret that as a minor annoyance. It often registers it like danger. As exile. As proof that you're not safe. That you might be abandoned again. And the most tragic part? Most people carry this fear quietly. They never admit it, not even to themselves. They keep pretending they're fine, emotionally independent, too busy for connection. And the world, full of people doing the same thing, becomes a cold mirror of disconnection. Look around. Do you see it? In the dating culture that rewards surface and speed, but not vulnerability. In the loneliness epidemic that sees millions isolated while hyperconnected online. In the quiet dread of being alone with your thoughts, so you distract yourself endlessly. In friendships that feel hollow. In families that sit at dinner with glowing screens between them. The world is aching for connection. And yet everyone's afraid to reach. But you can break that cycle. You can stop playing the game of pretending you're fine. You can meet the fear of separation, not by hiding from it, but by turning toward it. With gentleness. With curiosity. Start here. Recognize when you're chasing connection in ways that only deepen the pain. Notice the moments when silence feels unbearable, and ask what you're really afraid of. Is it truly loneliness, or the idea that your feelings don't matter? Is it the absence of company, or the belief that you're unworthy of being understood? Go even deeper. Every time you feel the sting of rejection, pause. Instead of spiraling, listen. Your mind is telling an old story. One you didn't choose. One about not being enough, or too much, or fundamentally different. But what if that story isn't true? What if the separation isn't real? You are part of something greater. And you always have been. When you connect with nature, when you lose yourself in art, when you cry with someone in stillness, when you feel seen even briefly, you remember. The fear fades. Something opens. Not because someone finally filled your emptiness, but because the walls dropped. Because you allowed yourself to be here. Fully. And when you live that way, when you act from connection instead of fear, everything changes. You stop performing. You start expressing. You stop pleasing. You start relating. You stop seeking attention. You begin offering presence. Relationships deepen. You attract people who meet you at that level. You experience solitude, not as absence, but as space. You build community, not from neediness, but from truth. You don't ask others to complete you. You offer yourself fully, knowing you're already whole. This isn't fantasy. It's what happens when you unlearn the lie of separation. It takes practice. It takes presence. It takes the courage to stop pretending and start being. But it's possible. Right now. Let this be your invitation. To stop running from the fear of being alone. To meet it like an old friend. To realize that the connection you long for isn't out there. It begins inside, when you stop abandoning yourself. When you speak honestly. When you slow down enough to hear your own voice. There's nothing more painful than separation. But there's also nothing more powerful than remembering that you were never separate to begin with. Everything you want, love, belonging, peace, is not something to chase. It's something to return to. You're already home. If this spoke to something inside you, subscribe to our channel. There's more waiting for you here, not noise, not distraction, but something real. Something true. Something connected.